we've come. That week 1 video still rolling strong 10 weeks later. It is the most wonderful time of year. I have to admit, it's rainy and cold. I like rainy and cold. Not driving in it, but I like rainy and cold. Mavericks are 2-0. We're in the World Series with the Rangers up 1-0 with a crazy walk-off win last night. And we're in playoff mode. You know how on Crocs you have casual mode and sport mode?
God.
We have pulled the ankle thing down on this high school football season, and we are in playoff mode. Engaged. Oh, what is up, everybody? It is the Denko Gridiron Show Saturday recap. In the studio, both of us, Stephen Peters, Lee Livingston. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good. I'm just like trying to get my head. Oh, I cannot believe you brought up Crocs as your reference point to start the show. Like that was so out of left field. I mean, like I just was not ready for a Crocs reference.
I mean, I could have been talking about the little, whatever they're called, that you bedazzle them with and everything. You put in the holes and stuff. But I knew about the little strap and how it's like you can.
I mean, you're not wrong, and it's like I like Crocs. They're great.
I've never had Crocs.
Oh, I have. Like
never.
they're great.
So maybe it's because of my age, but I feel they're very spare, and just cheap and everything. But I hear great things about them.
They're very convenient, especially like when I used to go fishing a lot more.
Sure.
It's like, oh my God, it was like just the best because like I could just walk into the water and not have to deal with like
fair. No,
I just dry off. I don't know. It's like I'm not barefoot, but it's like I have something on.
Fair enough. I never got into Crocs and everything.
Yeah, now I'm a flip-flop guy.
I see. I've always done flip-flops or slides or something, but never Crocs. So I'm just like I'm like a half step away from going in there. Just haven't done it. But yeah, Crocs, man, that's the reference. I feel like we're just gonna engage the sport or the playoff mode in terms of Texas high school football, which essentially we're in now that we're in the final week of the season after wrapping up this past week. We're in playoff mode basically, but we're not going to talk about week 11. We're going to talk about what just happened the last 2 nights, right? We got some news and notes real quick before we get into everything, because we've got a lot of playoff talk to talk about in terms of who is clinched and who's clinched what, teams that are still just hanging around, and then of course the teams that were eliminated as well. Before we do that, before we get to that preamble of the news and notes, you can always hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, YouTube, Facebook at Denko Gridiron. I'm on the social platform X, formerly known as Twitter, at I am Speeders. Lee is on everything because he's a millennial. Yeah. No, what are you, Gen Z?
Yeah, I think technically I'm Gen Z.
Yeah,
I'm like the very first 3 years.
Yeah, I'm in that first range of millennial age range as well. So I'm an old millennial and everything.
Yeah, I'm like an old Gen Z.
Yeah. But you're on, what are you on?
Instagram and Twitter, or X is where you can find me. Most of my video stuff is going to be on Instagram. So
yeah, fantastic work you've done and everything, dropping those videos. Been a big assist in terms of creating more content for this platform. So I appreciate it. You always reach out to us as well if you want to contribute as well as sponsor or work with us at info@denkogridiron.com. All right. So now that all the malarkey is out of the way, just a quick little recap of what happened in terms of the teams this past week. On Thursday and Friday, we had 22 matchups that was Denko Gridiron teams versus everybody else. Our teams went 15-7, not bad. We had 2 inter-district, they were district, but inter-county matchups, and so obviously we don't count those. So 15-7, pretty solid week. I think the teams are picking up the pace a little bit. It's also going against who they're playing and everything, but solid performances the last few weeks from our area teams at large. Now, as you hit the wonderful graphic, we have the teams that have clinched the playoffs as of week 10's finales. You have that. There we go. Boom. 16 of them. Look at it. It's gorgeous. I made that. You're welcome. 16 teams. We have a few newbies officially. I know last show and the last recap show kind of talked about, feel like they're in there anyways, just because of, only having one loss. It's weird that they could possibly not make it, but now they're officially in there, and that would be like the Lone Stars, the Reedies, of course, the Wakeland, Marcus and Louisville. They're all in. Like Dallas, Denton is officially in. So, we have 16 of our 28 teams in the area, and we have 5 more that could potentially get in there. But let's talk about the 5 teams that clinched district titles this week. You want to lead that off?
Yeah, that first one's obviously going to be, I think personally, the most exciting, and that's Byron Nelson clinching their very first district title ever, which to me kind of shocking that it's their very first district title. Having played against them in baseball and other sports and stuff when I was in high school, I think the school opened just a few years before I got into like middle
the school's
school.
Like 14 years old. I think.
It's not super old, so it's not totally surprising. I think when you kind of just do a little bit of math in your head, like, oh, this is their first district title. But when you kind of think about the fact, like how good they've been in some other sports and how good they've been in football here in recent years,
yeah,
it is kind of shocking that this is their first district title.
It's just
they've always been matched up with either South Lake Carroll
or
and then the other
Trinity,
it was Trinity, and then the other one was Denton Geyer.
Yep.
Because there were a couple of years where
they were in the same district.
We were in the same district. My sophomore and junior year, we were in the same district as them. And then it was because that was our first year back in 6A, back in the top highest classification we were matched up with them. And then there was also a span where I was in middle school, and then Byron Nelson was, I think this was right when Byron Nelson kind of entered the fold, and they were in the same district as like South Lake Carroll and Denton Geyer. It was weird. There was a time where Geyer was in like the Keller stuff, but also with South Lake Carroll and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was very weird. And so I'm very happy for Byron Nelson because it's well deserved. The Bobcats took it to South Lake Carroll, I felt like, all game long because we had it on in the booth. And
and we were actively cheering for that. Obviously to get there first, but just to kind of slay that quote unquote dragon. It's been something that's just lurked over them since they've started. Many years ago, I think they had won like 2 district games and they somehow got in on a tiebreaker or whatever. And I remember just kind of like, this Byron Nelson team sucks. Why are they in the playoffs or whatever? And this is way before I started getting into covering high school football, like as I am now. I was just like, they got in with 2 wins. How's that possible? And then it's just been a gradual upswell, and it started 2 seasons ago, however you want to couch it, in 2020, 3 seasons ago, I guess now, when Jake Wilson splashed onto the scene and guided that team to a 9-3 record. And then last year they followed up with I think an 11-2 record, losing to South Lake, of course. Ironically, I was thinking about it this morning. It's like, maybe they need to have every potential district title game moved up for the chance of rain as opposed to being pushed back, because last year they were on the road, the game got delayed and lost. This year they were at home, game got pushed up by an hour and they won. So maybe there's some correlation there. But so it's just been a gradual upswell last 3 seasons or 4 seasons, and then hats off to Travis Pride and that coaching staff and Coach Woodward and everything. The players obviously are a big reason why it happened. Leo Parker, Tom Von Groot, Tucker James. It's a huge momentous occasion for that program to get your first. Now becomes the hardest part is defending it, right? But we're going to see what the district shakes out like. We also had that happened. You can go into our website and see what the snapshot numbers were, and they projected reclassification for some schools. We don't have Byron Nelson's number, but I imagine they'll be 6A again. But it becomes now equally hard to defend that title moving next year. But right now you're in a playoff chase. You've locked in that district championship, you can't be anything other than D2 seed 1. So where the path goes through. It's going to be at home, and you're going to be figured as the prohibitive favorites for a few rounds now. So
yep, definitely. And like you said, you'll be the prohibitive favorites, so you'll kind of have that little bit of a target on your back for those first few rounds for sure.
And that's going to probably feel a little bit different considering that you've been just kind of this little stepchild of the district where it's like, yeah, that's great. You're 11-1 and all that stuff. And you still haven't beaten the good teams. Now you have it. Now that target shifts from South Lake.
I think that you can tell like this team has that chip on their shoulder. They're tired of that.
Oh yeah.
And I'm very excited to see what they're going to do here in the playoffs because I think they're going to take it to some teams, and I think they're kind of they took it out on some teams here.
They definitely took it out on South Lake last night.
And I think they're ready to go, hey, you know what? We're kind of tired of getting bounced in the third round or so. Like we're going to make a little run here. It's just, I don't know. It feels like a little bit of a storm brewing for over there in Trophy Club.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Next on this list is Argyle. And I don't think 2 weeks into the season, we thought this was going to happen.
Well,
I mean, I think we might have, but it was
so I proclaimed Argyle was going to win state. One of my 3 teams that would win state in the area. It's not going to happen. There might be one team that wins state, and that's Liberty Christian, who's also on this list because they won last night. But first 2 weeks of the season, you get annihilated against Melissa, annihilated against Lovejoy at home, which doesn't happen. And then you go into a game against Grapevine, which I think they were just winning 7-0 and it gets rained out. And then you go on the road to a neutral site and play Montgomery and you blow them out. But Montgomery's not a good team. So you're just like, well, how good are they really? And, we had the comment from one of our viewers that said, Emerson and Lake Dallas have played cupcake schedules and Argyle's still the team to beat. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right, but we haven't really seen that come to fruition. Well, it didn't take long for us to figure out that Argyle is back to being Argyle. Good job by Coach Todd Rogers over there to regroup a young team, inexperienced team, and put the pieces in place to claim another district championship. You're now 2 years into 5A life. We've got probably 2 more at the D2 level before you move up to D1. But they're 2 for 2, and that doesn't happen by accident. There was a tough district this year for sure with Emerson and Lake Dallas, and really just those 2. I mean, Denton's good, but they're better, but not on that level, I don't think.
No, not yet, and they're still getting a little bit better over at Denton High. But like you said, Lake Dallas, big step. Like they felt like they jumped into that kind of tier above from what they've been. Still couldn't take down Argyle. Emerson was really good. Like they have Mike Hawkins at quarterback, 4-star Oklahoma commit. It's a good team over there at Frisco Emerson, and just neither of those teams could knock down the Eagles this year.
Yeah.
And so Argyle still the big guy at the top in that particular district, and would be shocked to see them fall off that district, lose a district title, unless there's something weird happens and maybe they end up in some real tough district here.
Yeah, we'll see. That's
always weird. A little bit like once you get under 6A or 5A D, once you kind of get into that 5A D2 and below, districts can get really bizarre is kind of what I've learned here.
Sure.
Like they'll just mismatch teams.
It happens in D1, and I mean even 6A can be a mixed match. It's just based off the puzzle pieces and everything. But
I just think it happens a little bit more often at those levels. So that's why
just because it's a little bit more sparse.
Yeah.
For sure.
Maps are a little weirder.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you mentioned it already, Liberty Christian. Congratulations. You kind of ran through your district.
They still got a game to go.
Yeah, got one more to go, but
yes, one more to go.
I think they'll be okay. I think they are marching along here towards a state title. I don't want to get too far out in front. I know. I'm
not doing it
but
again.
It's hard. It's hard not to when you see the scores they're putting up and the points that they're not allowing. I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah, the last night's game against the second best team in district, who then did beat them in the second round last year of the playoffs. We talked about this on Wednesday. This was probably going to be the one game that's circled on their calendar as a huge revenge game. They might meet again in the playoffs, in the second round. So, it's not over yet. But yeah, they've just absolutely annihilated, and they won by 29 last night. And I think that was their closest win of the season, if I'm not mistaken. 29 points. That's dumb. Now at one point it was 18-13, so it was pretty close, or 18-7 or something like that. All Saints was keeping it close, but yeah, the Liberty Christian, they have been a team on a mission. It seems like back-to-back district champions now. It's looking inevitable. They look inevitable. It feels like it. So we'll see. You know, playoffs are a different monster, and can't let your foot off the gas. Even though you've wrapped up a district title, you've got to go out and hang 50 in the first half, and then get the starters off, and then get prepared for. I think they have a bye in the first round. No, they'll play the 4 seed out of TAPS 2-1. Sorry, yes, TAPS 2-1.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the TAPS playoff format. It's a little, because it is different. I know it's a little bit shorter format. They end a little bit too quick, a little bit soon, like a week or two sooner.
Yep.
All right, now we got 2 more teams on this list, both out of Frisco. One of them being one of our TAPS schools, Frisco Legacy, who missed the playoffs a year ago, only to come out this year. And I mean, what a fantastic season for these guys.
It's very similar to Liberty of last year, the year before, in Winton's first year. It was an awful team, just awful. Players were there. They just didn't have they just hadn't been in a good position to know what to do with themselves, basically. And Winton, then last year they flipped it and won district after a rough season. Legacy last year started off pretty well, and then just got annihilated in district play, and then lost the de facto play-in game against Coram Deo last year in the season finale. Not the case this year, man. Outside of that pretty bad loss to Liberty, they have held their own. That team got talent, and they have beaten everybody but Liberty this year. And it's, hats off to Coach Doug Hicks and that coaching staff, brand new coaching staff this year. They had the same players, basically. They just coached them up much more than they were getting coached up the year prior. So maybe that, it's that year of growth also did them wonders as well. So very impressive to see what Frisco Legacy has done in year 1 of the Hicks regime. So,
all right, and then last on this list is the other Frisco team that clinched a district title. This was on Thursday night. One of the tougher district titles to win this year. One of my favorite teams we got to go out and watch, and that is Frisco Lone Star. Big tip of the cap to them, in my opinion. Just wow, because the race between them and Reedy, we talked about it before the Lone Star Reedy game. That was basically going to be a district title game. I love that game. It was a walk-off touchdown in that game. I loved watching. We got to watch Reedy the next week, and they looked fantastic against Wakeland. Reedy has been incredible since then. Lone Star been fantastic since that game. Like it felt like a 2-horse race in that district to some degree. Just the level of play from the top 2 teams in that district. And luckily, I'm happy we get to cover both of them.
Sure.
Because, oh my gosh, it was fun to keep up with. Yeah. And just, I thought there might have been a slip up from one of these two, and there wasn't at any real point. It is a last second crazy play that decided this district title.
Yeah.
And it was all the way back
8 weeks ago.
I mean, we said it felt like a district title.
It felt like a district championship game.
Just insane.
The only concern is how does Wakeland stack up, and then how does Frisco stack up? Well, I mean, Wakeland, they lost to Reedy the next week, and I think they had one more slip up to Reedy. Oh, sorry, to Lone Star. And Frisco has now looked fraudulent. And even from seeing Lone Star at that point in the year to what they are now, I feel like from just looking at box scores, looking at highlights and everything like that, they're better, but they're a much different team. Like it was all Davion Gross to begin the season, and that would seem like to be their only offense. Well, they have found other offensive pieces. Now, I don't know if Gross has been injured or what the deal had been, but he has not been in the offensive box score a lot since that game. So maybe it was just overuse, or got injured or whatever the case might be, but they completely changed how they operate as an offensive unit. And so credit to Coach Rayburn and them out there to, develop Colin Blackstock to be a very competent quarterback. I know I kind of offhandedly said earlier this year that, he's not to the level of a Brennan Meyer type quarterback or a Braxton Roberts or anything like that. I mean, no, he's kind of proven making me eat those words a little bit. I still don't think he's quite there, but he's definitely closed the gap in terms of where I saw him at to begin this year and what his play has shown through highlights and through the box scores to be now as a player. So I think they're going to be a very tough team to knock out in terms of the playoffs. It's matchups are everything, but it'll be interesting to see what they would line up against their 6-5A. So they would play 5-6A, 5-5A D1. And I don't have that one off the top of my head. I should head the magazine out. But it'll be interesting to see how they progress from winning the district title, having essentially a lull week, and then gearing up for playoffs. But congratulations to Lone Star recapturing the district championship after Reedy won it last year. So so those are the 5 teams that have clinched district titles. Then we have I think how many?
We got 5 teams that are still kind of floating around.
We have the other teams that clinched the playoff spot. That's Louisville, Marcus, Northwest. Obviously, Lone Star and Reedy did clinch this week officially. Wakeland as well. Lake Dallas, because of their win over Independence, they clinched. Denton clinched as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more teams have. 9 more teams have clinched. No, it's 8. It's 8. Sorry. 8 more have clinched officially. And now we still have 5 more teams floating around in terms of teams that are vying for playoff spots. And that's Hebron. They need to beat Louisville this coming week and or have Plano East lose to Marcus. Ryan is still hanging around. There's a possibility of them getting the 2 seed if they beat Northwest. There's also a possibility of a 3-way tie, and that then lumps in the Colony. Colony needs Centennial Ryan to either win and Centennial to lose to get in, or they have to have that 3-way tie where Ryan loses, the Colony's off, and Burleson Centennial wins. And then the other 2 are from our smaller schools. We have Crum, which is in a win or go home playoff type game next week because of their win over Farmersville. No, not Farmersville.
It was over Bridgeport this week. Yeah,
over Bridgeport. And then Ponder is also in a little bit dire straits than Crum. They're going to have to knock off Brock after they lost last night to Farmersville. Correct?
Ponder. So it was.
I have it. I'm an idiot.
It was.
You're good. I'll get it.
Okay. All right. Cool.
No, just they lost to Brock. Ponder lost to Brock.
Yes.
Crum beat Bridgeport, so now it becomes Ponder having to beat Whitesboro, and hoping that Peaster loses to Boyd to get in. So very, very difficult task ahead. And again, it goes back to 2 weeks ago. If you just took care of business, you had it right there. It was it was right there against Peaster, and you get shut out.
Yeah, and obviously Crum had the luck of the draw in terms of, look, they could afford to lose. They were in a best 2 out of 3 situation where they could afford to lose one. Now it made it tougher whenever you talk about best 2 out of 3. You want to win that first one because it takes some pressure off and allows you to kind of play around with what you got to do game plan wise. However, this is football, so there's such a gap between games. It's not like other sports where your strategy, everything's compacted into like the span of 3 days. So there's a little bit of grace there. And now it's win or go home on this next Friday. Ponder, oh my goodness, like that's it sucks. Like they had been doing so well, and now we're just gonna have to sit here and hope that Peaster does them a favor after beating them. I don't know.
It's gonna happen.
I doubt it.
Which is one of the worst teams in that district. But it's
gonna be tough. maybe, it's weird, stuff happens. It's just, it stinks.
Yeah, for sure. You had the golden opportunity. I mean, just to essentially just not show up against Peaster last week. Just inexcusable, I think, for what the program was trying to be. I can understand if they gave up 50 and they scored 48 or something. At least you were in a shootout and you were there, right there. But to be shut out and then still give up 34, if it was 10-0 or something, okay, it's just a bad night. At least your defense played well. Defense didn't play that great, and your offense didn't perform. So it's just a tough way to end the season, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm forecasting in my head, but still a very, very tough way to go out. And then that leaves 3 teams after this week were eliminated. At least the first one is according to the Dallas Morning News. I somehow still see it, and we'll talk about I don't know why we're doing it this way. We got a little bit too in depth in terms of talking about it, but we'll go through the standings here in a little bit after John talks to us. But Flower Mound is officially eliminated with their loss to Coppell. Sanger and Pilot Point have been eliminated as well. That leaves 7 teams eliminated from our area for playoffs. All right, we're going to take a brief break. Let John talk to you once again, as he does every week. And then we'll come back and start talking about some standings.
Everything's bigger in Texas, especially Texas high school football. We're entering our 7th season with the Denko Gridiron platform. We started this 7 years ago, right across the street at West Oak Coffee Bar. Just an idea to bring content directly wherever you are. Be a part of the community. Join us. Help our contributors to tell the stories each and every Friday night throughout the season. Talking your town, your team.
Hey, thanks, John. We love seeing your face and covering up the coffee stain on your shirt with your big old 10-gallon hat. All right. So let's get into what the standings look like for all of the standings. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 standings to go through. We did it last week, kind of show where everybody is at. These are as up to the minute in terms of, so games got pushed back. There was a TAPS game that got pushed back that affects the standings, so we don't have that game obviously in there. But as up to the minute as we could be from last night in terms of where things stand. So we'll start with 4-6A. We've already mentioned it. You've got Byron Nelson at the top with the Y next to your name. It's always wonderful to see one of our area schools claim a district championship. We've already talked about it a little bit. So they will, in fact, be the 1 seed at the Division II, regardless if Carroll goes D2 or moves up to D1, and that could be affected by the standings at the bottom with Keller and Haltom. I believe if Haltom were to get in, that would make Carroll D1 and Timber Creek D1, and then Nelson and Haltom obviously would be D2. If it stays the way it is, if Keller beats Haltom, then Nelson still is D2, but then Carroll moves down to D2 in terms of enrollment figures. Any thoughts on there? So just happy to see,
Byron Nelson up at the top.
Yep.
And, we talked about them clinching that district title kind of already. So don't have much else to add to that.
Yep. All right. Moving over to 5-6A. This has been in lock since last week's finales of who were the 4 that were going to be in there. But as you can see, it's basically, this is how it's going to shake out. Prosper is going to be your D1 1 seed. Geyer's going to be your 2 seed with the loss last night to McKinney. And we could talk a little bit about that if you want to.
Yeah, since we were at that game, and obviously we were watching a little bit. Things got kind of gross. It was kind of a gross game, a little bit sloppy from the get-go, to be honest.
It started off definitely slow, and there was a spell in which there were 3 straight possessions to end the first quarter where there were scores, and so it looked like we were about to pick up and have a pretty good game. But this has kind of been the Achilles heel for Geyer over the last few years. It's just that they find a team that can bully them up front, they suffer because they don't have the big horses on the defensive line to stop the run game, and that's what happened last night.
Yeah, they were just getting pushed around kind of all night long, and it was the same like end arounds and things like that. Just kind of, it felt like to that left side, and it was just over and over and over and over and over. It got, and it just like, to be honest, it was.
And then McKinney took their shots too. Like
they did, and that's the thing is that's what was kind of most concerning to me is, I mean, there were some blown coverages. I mean, there was
where there was an injury for Alvarez or something like that. I believe number 5 for Geyer.
I do. All right, I remember you that because I was on the sideline, so I didn't know if that was a play where there was the injury or not. But then when I was up in the booth with you in the second half, sitting there, there were like three of the touchdown, 3 big shots taken downfield, where guys just completely didn't get their heads around to the ball, and it was just frustrating to kind of sit there and watch it. And I was like, it's just like, this is not the defense that I'm accustomed to seeing, especially the secondary. It felt like a little bit like the Alito game.
Yes.
In terms of like these big shots that you're getting taken downfield, and
they had no counter
like,
for it in terms of
what is going on here. And the reason to me that game in general was just so alarming is if things shake out the way we'll kind of talk a little bit about here in 6-6A, because I think this is where, if you're a Geyer fan, you need to pay attention to 6-6A, is if Capel ends up D2.
Yep.
I think Capel is going to be, it could be a nightmare for Geyer if Geyer doesn't kind of fix some of the things going on right now.
Yeah, and I think the second most alarming thing, outside of the defense not being able to really stop anybody with regularity this year, although you did hold Allen to 18 last week, so I don't know if that is.
Yeah, I think the defense feels like an up and down roller coaster right now. The offense was.
That's the other thing is
they were bad.
The offense has no running game really to speak of. If they're playing inferior opponents, those offensive numbers look very inflated, especially on the ground. Whenever you can't get the running game going, you're resting your offense on a guy who started maybe 3 or 4 games this year. Yeah. A little undersized, not very quick for being that size, because he got hauled down pretty regularly last night whenever you try to scramble. He has a live arm. I'll give him that.
He can
throw darts.
It reminds me a little bit of like a Baker Mayfield, where he's undersized. He's not the most, he's not quicker than anybody or anything. Kind of moves well in the pocket. It's just, if he gets forced out of the pocket, he's not going to scramble for 20 yards or 30 yards.
Yeah.
He's not Russell Wilson. But he has the arm he has an electric arm, in my opinion. If they could draw, I think they just need to draw some stuff up where, the quick slant over and over was not enough. It's like, draw some stuff up, let them uncork something downfield a little bit.
And so that's what I wanted to mention is like, I think Geyer is at most a 2-round team this year, at most, because Harney has a very live arm in terms of getting the ball there quickly. The problem is his accuracy. It is pretty damn bad. And it'll be worked on, I'm sure. I mean, you were supposed to you started with him this year, then you moved to McLaughlin. You were bouncing back and forth, and McLaughlin started finding something, especially in that Alito game. Then he got hurt, and so now you've had to ride back to Harney, which is fine. He's done admirably, but he just does not have the completion percentage to be a impact quarterback. The reason I think they were going so much with the stacked side with the slant underneath is because it's a one read offense for him. We got to make this as simple as possible, get the ball out of his hands and let our playmakers do it. Well, after a while, it doesn't take long for defenses to understand what you're doing. You're going to go slant. You might go sluggo once, which they did. It hit. It should have been a touchdown. It wasn't called one. And I don't know if that really impacted the game at that point, but still, it just there was not a dynamic enough offensive set, because I don't think they trust Harney enough yet to sit back there and make the right read. You make the first read and you throw it, and you just throw it regardless. And that's a lot of high school quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong; it's not just a Harney issue. That's a lot of quarterbacks. We're only going to give you one read because either A, you don't have the time in the pocket, or you're just not skilled enough to sit there and say, okay, I can. To slow the game down in your mind to see that you have a breaking safety. I need to go off of it and go my backside, or I need to look over the top, or whatever the case might be. So there's a lot there, and I'm sure it'll be worked on for Harney, because he'll probably be QB1 next year because McLaughlin's a senior. So yeah, it was just a rough showing last night for Geyer against McKinney, considering that they struggled against Rock Hill last week, and considering that Geyer beat Allen again this year and played well against Alito. It's just all these variables seemed like we were going to get a pretty good game, and we ended up not getting a really good game at all. It was bad. No, the slipping too. There was a lot of slippage.
Yeah, there was a lot of slippage. Yeah, so
it was just an ugly type of game. But yeah, Geyer, like you said, it's really going to come down to what happens this week. If it's Marcus, as your D2 seed 1, a little bit easier chance, I think, if you're going against Coppell, which by all accounts has a really well-rounded offense, according to Coach Gage over at Flower Mound. It's going to be a rough go.
Yeah, I think the one thing for Geyer to benefit from if they did play Coppell is, at least with the Harney thing, is maybe it forces them to open up the playbook and give him let him try to read things a little bit, and it's going to, it's a lot to ask. It's just, I do like, hey, like, let's just, let's test the waters a little bit, like sometimes I think it's just beneficial for an athlete to, I think sometimes you put so many limitations on guys in games where it's like, it's just not, it's hard to develop. It's like, sometimes it's just like, hey, like let's expand things a little bit, like gradually. And it's like, you do it once or twice and it doesn't work, and then it's like, all right, we can't ever do that again.
Right.
It's
but
like,
those limitations are set in place because of what they see in practice. So they probably understand that maybe this just we don't have the luxury of a Jackson Arnold who's going to make his 1 or 2 reads and then tuck in a run with 21 miles an hour speed. Harney's not that guy in everything. I mean, there's not a lot of Jackson Arnold.
No, there's not a lot of Jackson Arnolds. I do think, like, you have a good enough offensive line to give a guy, and this is where I think you got to be more creative with your playbook and more with your designs and stuff when you're drawing up routes for your guys to run. And this is the part that frustrates me sometimes with high school football. It's like this is where, as coaches, like, I want to see them figure out like it's hard. It's a lot to ask because it's a mid-season thing. It was designed for Logan McLaughlin. It's like, how can you adjust the offense to work more for Harney rather than just give him one read like that? Like, he's got a good,
correct. I would say that it'd be like
it's like, and just like, at least let the dude try to chuck a ball once in a while, because you have the receivers that can go up and get a ball. And that's the part where it's like, at least just when you're down 17,
try it.
Like, go out there, like on the first down or second down, let him airmail it. Yeah. Like, he's got the ability to put loft on the ball. Let Josiah Martin, these other guys, go out and just like work on that in practice, like airmail it.
I agree. So, it's hard, but it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. I think if you're a coach, it's damned if you do, because it's like, okay, if we try it more than just a couple of times and it fails miserably, now I've really set our team back. And if it doesn't work, now where do we turn? It's like, which death by 1,000 cuts do you want to go through, really, at that point? So that's where you're looking at. So it's tough to kind of just, holistically look back in the armchair quarterback and say, well, he should have done blah, blah, blah. Well, at the same time.
It's easy for me to sit here and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Heim, do what we say. All right. No. All right. So let's move over to 6-6A. You just kind of alluded to that. We have 2 new entrants in terms of playoff teams. We already discussed it. Louisville is in. Right now they're matching up with Allen in the first round, which would be I think an interesting matchup. Last year was a lot more assured feeling in that matchup of Louisville going out and beating Allen. This year, not so much. Just because again, we talked about it in the press box, this is Louisville.
That's what Allen is too. That Louisville Allen matchup feels like it could be an absolute.
We could that week could be an intersection of where Allen's on the up and Louisville's on the down, or vice versa. So we have no idea. Like, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a tie just to cover my ass on that one. It's just there's no way to look at it. And then you can also right there see Marcus is in as well. They would be like we said, the D1 or seed 1 at a D2. But if Hebron gets in, they'll be the C2 and D2. Lurking right below them is Pesh or Plano East. If they get in, they would be D1, and so Louisville would be Louisville and Coppell would be it would be Louisville and Plano East would be their D1 schools. I gotta look at the magazine again. Damn it! I should have all this stuff before, but there's variance in where you can go in terms of playing. You can either be C2 for D1 or seed 1 for D2. I don't know. I forgot. I've completely forgot what the scenarios are, but that's what the standings look like in terms of 6-6A. Any thoughts?
I think the biggest spot is the one we already kind of mentioned. It's just a matter of Plano East getting. I think if you are a Geyer fan, pay attention to the Plano East Hebron situation and who gets in there and what happens in that 4th spot. Because if Plano East gets in, that's going to be a big effect on Geyer and who they play in that first round. Because if it's Coppell, I think that's a much tougher game than Marcus. Coppell's offense, I think, is going to. That's the part that scares me a little bit more. Obviously, like I want Geyer to succeed a little bit. There's some bias there because I did graduate from Geyer, and that was it wasn't that long ago.
Okay, I have it now. Sorry.
Okay,
go for it.
I was just to say, what scares me a little bit about Coppell matching up, with Geyer is that offense over at Coppell. It is pretty fast pay. Like they can do almost anything, and they're getting a great play out of the quarterback position. That passing game looks really, really good. And I don't know, like that up-tempo offense for Coppell right now. I don't know. I don't think that if Geyer's defense plays great, they might hold Coppell to a lower point total than normal or something. I don't know if Geyer's offense is going to be able to sustain drives long enough to go toe-to-toe with that Cowboy offense.
Okay, so here's how the situation would break down. Louisville is D1 regardless. So if Hebron is in, like it showed on the graphic, Louisville would be C2. If Pesh is in, they would be seed 1. So then you have either playing Prosper or playing Allen. That's your matchup for the first round for Louisville.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
They're D1 regardless.
Louisville's D1. That's what I had thought originally.
Right. Yeah, they're D1. That's what it said in the graphic. They're D1 right now as the 2 seed though. Because Coppell is D1 as well at this time. But if Plano East wins, Hebron loses, then Coppell drops down to D2. Louisville moves into that seed 1. Yeah. So, all right. And then that will obviously affect what happens with Marcus and Hebron. If Hebron is in. So, yeah, a lot of balls in the air in terms of 6-6A. So, and like I said, I thought there was a way for a 3-way tie. I've reached out to a Coach Gage, actually, over at Flower Mound, but apparently, according to the morning news, they are eliminated with the loss last week or this week to Coppell. Again, I still see a 3-way tie somehow, but maybe there's a tiebreaker I'm not aware of that eliminates them automatically. All right, 3-5A D1. Northwest sitting in that 2nd spot. They are officially in. And then we have the mess of Ryan, the Colony, and Centennial. So long and short of it, Ryan is in. If they win, the Colony is in with the Centennial loss. If Centennial wins and Ryan wins, then the Colony's out. If Ryan loses to Northwest, which is very likely, because Northwest is a damn good team, and Centennial wins, then you have a 3-way tie, and that'll be fun. So yeah, I'll let you run through this one. 6'5" AD1.
All right. So 6'5" AD1, kind of talked a little bit about these teams. Lone Star and Reedy, both really, really good teams. I mean, Reedy, we got to see not too long ago. It feels like we've seen them. We saw them twice. I love watching
back
both.
weeks. Yeah.
Yep. I think they're both hot at the moment, and
yep.
I think they're just going to. I think these are two teams that might end up running into each other in the playoffs. Wakeland taking that third spot.
And we talked about this, even though they were sitting at, what was it, like a half game out or something like that a couple of weeks ago, we felt good about their chances of getting in at least the fourth spot with Heritage being above them.
Oh yeah, Frisco Wakeland.
Yeah, because they opened district play with the win over, Heritage, and then Heritage still had Lone Star and Reedy on the calendar. We felt like they were gonna get knocked down. And
it just it didn't feel like it felt like everything worked out the way Wakeland needed. They got the wins early in the year that they needed to, and they did. Obviously, they lost to Lone Star and Reedy, but those two teams feel like a cut above everyone else
for sure.
So I still think Wakeland has a good chance to win some playoff games, and one or two. I don't know.
Maybe it's gonna be a tough district to go against. And out of 5-6A, we talked about it earlier. It was Midlothian, Lake Helton, and
is that no? That's the district that Ryan
sorry.
That's 3-5 AD1 that I don't know who this district plays.
So what are they? 6-5. They would play 5-6 AD1.
5-5
AD1. That's one I was looking at earlier. That's Midlothian, Lake Belton.
Oh, so hold on. So this one would. Okay, so these are the guys that would be playing.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought. Wait, who would 3-5 AD1 be playing?
4-5 AD1. Hold on.
We're getting.
Are we getting our wires crossed?
I think we've gotten our wires crossed because I thought 3-5 AD1 was going to be.
It's 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. 7 and 8. That's how they match the first rounds.
Yeah, so 6-5 AD1, which is Lone Star, Reedy, Wakeland, Frisco.
We'll play 5-5 AD1.
Okay, and that's Midlothian. Oh, okay, all right. So, I thought when we were talking about the colony and stuff, Brian.
You're right. Nope, I'm sorry. It's Mansfield, Timberview, Richland, Bryan, all those schools. I completely. Yep, you were right. I was wrong.
All right.
Sorry. I had my district's point for Lee Livingston. Yes. No. So this district would play against the Mansfield Timberviews and Richlands, as well as White and Newman Smith.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, so I think Newman's. What's Newman Smith? How have they done lately? I don't know. That was a weird conversation early in the year.
That was. What we just did was a weird conversation.
Yeah, I know.
In general. So.
Okay, all right. But back to what we were saying. Wakeland, good job this year. Really took care of business early in the year. Did a good job doing that. Winning the games they needed to, and then I think Reedy and Lone Star, man, it just it's the same thing.
That's who they would be matched up against. It's a tough out. So the first round matchup. Sorry, go ahead.
So I think I was gonna say with Reedy, it's kind of similar to Lone Star a little bit to me. They've been getting better quarterback play ever since that early season, that week 3 loss. I think Reedy and Lone Star I can see either of those teams making a really deep run right now.
Oh yeah,
like the way they're playing, and they're both very physical. I would love to see a rematch here in the playoffs.
Yeah,
that to me would be a dream come true. I think both those teams would love to have that, especially this year. I don't think either of those teams want to wait until next year. I think they want it this year. It would be a little bit later in the playoffs.
I'm trying to see what the bracket would look like for them to have to get to match up. So
I think it could happen. I think both those teams are well capable enough at the moment to.
Boy, that is if that isn't a Regency, that matchup would happen. Oh no, it would happen in the regional final. That's how that would happen. So they would have to go through 1, 2, 3 rounds and meet up in the 4th round.
I think that is absolutely possible.
It's possible, but I think the probability is very low, but it's still very possible, yes, that they could.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm saying I could absolutely I wouldn't be totally shocked. I think they're both playing
No, I definitely agree, and it's great that A, we got to see that game, and B, that the game was decided so close and like on a walk off. Like you don't get a lot of walk off games in high school, especially of that kind, and for that early on to have decided
the district title, like
who is 1 and who is 2 is crazy.
Just the magnitude of that game and what it ended up being is insane. And probably I don't know if we're going to see a better game than that this year. Like in terms of,
well, there's Alito and Geyer.
Yeah, that guy.
Well, that was the same week.
That was the same week.
Yeah, that was a banger of a week. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I don't know. That Lone Star game. Well, just because that was a district game.
Fair. It does take the edge.
That takes the edge up a notch.
Yeah,
so.
and we had 2, or if at least it was consecutive weeks at the most, where it was Geyer one the next week versus Lolito.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been that way, but still two consecutive walk-off games. Phenomenal. All right, 3-5A D2. Who would be matched up against 4-5A D2? That's for sure. There's what the standing looks like. Argyle is on the top again. 2 years in, 2 years as district champions. Then you have Lake Dallas, surprisingly, who I think they not snuck in, but they handily beat Denton to get into the playoffs last year. Definitely got a cut above this year. And then they also helped get Denton in as well as Emerson in the playoffs. So in terms of looking at who is over there in 4-5A D2, if I can get there. I wish the magazines could update like the website. That way I can just flip the page and
have it on hand.
Yeah. So it's the Colleyville Heritage, Grapevine, Arlington Heights, and Wyatt district. So I'm not sure who's on top, but that's where we'll find out where all these teams slot in terms of seeds when Denton and Lake Dallas play this week.
If I'm not mistaken, one of those teams state ranked in that district?
Colleyville Heritage.
Colleyville Heritage. Okay.
I believe so.
And yeah, Colleyville Heritage. Okay. Yeah. It's Colleyville Heritage because we were talking about that in the booth last night.
We were?
Maybe John was. Someone was.
About them being ranked? Yeah, they're ranked 10th. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So currently, like it would look like Denton is 4th, right? So they would be playing Colleyville Heritage. And then Arlington Heights, I believe, is who
that's
Lake Dallas would be playing, and then the 4th seed
probably Wyatt, because that's who Argyle played last year.
Either Wyatt or Arlington Heights. What's the so it would be Wyatt. That's who they would be playing against. So yeah,
Argyle is going to kind of use these next
3 of our 4 teams.
I think good thing for Argyle, if you're an Argyle fan, you got a little bit easier schedule here the next couple of weeks, because if I double check here, it's is it Independence this week for Argyle? No, it's Creekview for Argyle this week, and then you'll have a little bit easier you're gonna have an easier first round. So this week's a little bit of a tune-up week for Argyle. The following week, because you've already got that district title, these next 2 weeks are kind of tune-ups and I don't mean to say that and be rude to the other programs. It's just Argyle's cut above these guys. So if you're Argyle, it's go out, use these next couple weeks to get ready and get right for those that deep playoff run that you expect from the Eagles every year. And I think that's going to benefit them here in the long run, because they've looked better over the last month and a half than they did early in the year. So I'm curious to see what Argyle will actually end up doing here through the month of November.
I 100% agree. They're ranked as well. They've been climbing the rankings the last few weeks.
I think it's well deserved too, because they look very different. You just go through the box scores and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. But when it comes to nut cutting time, we'll really see what they're about. Because we've seen them beat Emerson, we've seen them beat Lake Dallas. Are they just that much better than them, or are those teams much improved and Argyle is legit a contender? That's kind of what I'm
okay. I got you. Yeah.
So all right, over to 7-4 AD1. Not a lot has changed. There is a game still left on the calendar for this one. Panther Creek and Salina, where we'll be out there at Kirkendall Stadium on Thursday to decide the district championship in week 11. So nothing changed from last week outside of Salina winning and setting up this matchup.
Yep.
You have some passionate thoughts about Panther Creek's
I think
chances.
Panther Creek. I think Salina obviously is a great team. There's nothing to knock about them. They gave up a lot of points. There's a few games where they've given up a lot of points. I think Panther Creek has the offense to go out and give Salina a lot of trouble. I'm not going to sit here and project. I don't want to give giant projections or crazy ones. It's just I think Panther Creek can win this game. I absolutely think they can. They have a defense that can create turnovers. We've seen them do it in 2 different games. They played a very physical Aubrey team, and did they have some problems with Hutchinson? Yes. Is Aubrey a smaller class? Or excuse me, Aubrey's just a division lower, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah, they're a division lower. I mean, they punished Aubrey all night long.
Yep.
In terms of physicality. So maybe they're not quite built to go toe to toe in terms of the physicality of Salina, but I don't know. I think that's just what makes that game so interesting to me, because maybe they are on that offensive line. I think this offense at the end of the day is going to give Salina problems, because it's just explosive and it's efficient, and they've been able to do a lot of things that other high school offenses can't.
Fair enough. All right. Over to 5-4A D2. Aubrey, again, won district last week. They were off this past week, or this week, I should say. Then it comes down to what happens with Crum. Sanger is eliminated, as you see. Crum and Gainesville, that's going to decide the 4th seed, because Farmersville has wins over both of those teams. So regardless if Farmersville wins, and whoever wins between Gainesville and Crum, that will be your 4th seed. So Farmersville is basically, probably should have put an X next to him. I don't think I did. Farmersville is in at this point. Moving down to 4-3 AD1. We talked about it earlier. Ponder is technically in the 5th seed. And Pilot Point is eliminated. So Ponder has a lot of work to do. Peaster plays Boyd, as you see on there. They're a game behind them, and then Ponder plays.
That's wrong.
What's up?
Oh, I was trying to find the graphic for this one.
Is it not on the screen?
No, I don't think I have it.
We don't have it. Well, shoot.
Apologies, folks. Imagine.
Imagine. Huh, I can get it real quick. This is 4-3 AD1.
Oh, here. No, that's 7-4 AD1.
4-3 AD1. Come on. Boom. There we go.
Cool.
Brock and Paradise and Whitesboro have a spot. Peaster is a game up on Ponder, or a mythological game up on Ponder, because they have the tiebreaker. So Ponder has to win. Peaster has to lose in week 11 for Ponder to get in. And of course, Pilot Point is eliminated. So that is 4-3 AD1. There is TAPS 1. District 1, Parrish and Prestonwood. We kind of said it from the outset. They look like they're going to be meeting for a district championship in week 11. Here we go. Right. Yep. Nolan Catholic and Bishop are playing later, I believe later today, as the game was rained out. So we will find out who that 4th seed is there. Go ahead, talk about, well, I have to add it in here first before we talk about TAPS 2 District 1, because it didn't load. So I loaded all these at one time, and it seems like only 8 can go in, or 10 can go in at a time.
I do not know.
Yeah, it's a dumb program. All right, TAPS 2 District 1, Liberty Christian, as we said, district champs.
Mm-hmm.
Beat All Saints, Southwest Christian, Midland Christian, and Forward Christian are all battling for. I think there's a chance in which there's a 3-way tie, although I think Forward Christian is eliminated because they've already lost to everybody. I don't know. They play All Saints, so they could win but still be out. So I don't know. Anyways, regardless, Liberty Christian is a 1 seed. They will meet the 4 seed at a TAPS 2 District 2, which is going to be Grapevine, Faith, or Bishop Dune. So yeah, Frisco Legacy at the top there. They are the district champions of 2-2. All righty. I'll let you rock with the top 5 performers of the week that we did. Offensive wise, we don't have the defensive numbers, and if coaches want to get those uploaded into Max Preps or send them over, we'll be checking through emails and that website all through the weekend and updating defensive stats. But want to give some shout outs for top 5 offensive performances this week. Lee.
All righty. Number 1, first on the list is going to be Brennan Meyer, the quarterback over at Frisco Wakeland, 364 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. He just keeps doing it. This is a dude we've had him on this list before. We'll probably have him again, I think, before the end of the season, because I think he's going to show out here one more time. Ooh. And a little bit of a projection. I think he'll have a big playoff game.
Ooh.
I think we saw him in that Reedy game really kind of ball out, try to do a lot for his team. So I think we'll get one more. I think we're going to see him on this list one more time. A little bit of a bold projection. Quarterback Cade Bortnam from Lake Dallas, 318 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Big game from Cade. And then
they put up 70. Everybody had a big game, but yeah.
Hey, you know what? Quarterback had a part of it. Running back. Okay, you're gonna have to help me out here because I know this is your guy.
Ife Duradoy.
This is your guy. 263 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean, I'll let you kind of talk a little bit because I know you love him.
I mean, he's that throwback type of running back. He's a bowling ball he's not huge. I'm not saying that, but he's thick. He's a thick boy, but he's got some speed and power. And he's just been a world beater throughout this season. I think he's now over 1,400 yards rushing, 23 touchdowns on the year. God. If you looked at the box score last night and looked and saw what they did over Centennial, you see 4 next to his name. He's pretty much the only. The reason why they have been winning. It's feed Ife. Oh yeah, at this point, who's getting the ball at Northwest. It's just like no one's stopping it. And that's Ryan's goal next week. I mean, it's an inner Denko matchup, so I'm not going to root for either.
He's kind of almost putting up like Derrick Henry stat lines. It feels a little like,
oh yeah,
who's getting the ball.
Yeah,
just stop him. No, you can't. That's the problem.
And that becomes a task for Ryan next week. It's like, all right, you've had to formulate a game plan to stop Ife.
Good luck.
Good luck. Good luck.
Like hit really hard.
Yeah.
Like sure. I don't know how you do it. Like he had 7 touchdowns in the game. All right. Like
yeah, that's still the stupidest stat.
All right, and then finally receiver Christian Trickett.
Oh, hold on, we missed one.
Oh, we missed one. Oh, my bad.
Moses for Braswell.
Oh yeah, Moses. Adelowo.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. 208 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. This dude was going off. There were a couple guys that were having some good games in that Braswell game. But
yeah, we didn't really mention that one very much.
Yeah, we were at that game Thursday night, but Braswell had themselves a day. They were playing.
That's one of those feel-good games. It's like, the season's essentially over, but we have 2 left. Let's just ball out.
Yeah, they needed it. It's a new staff and everything. So go out and play well, right? And then Christian Trickett. From Panther Creek is the last guy on this list. 162 yards, 3 touchdowns receiving.
Good to see him back after only having a catch the week prior or the game prior.
Yeah, it's good to know he's not hurt.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe he tweaked something and they just said, we're going to shut it down. We'll try to win without you. And we don't want to risk injury. We have the bye week. Or open week. We want to make sure you're healthy. So get ready for the playoffs. And he's back to being ready for the playoffs.
So real quick, before we wrap things up, I want to point out Ron Rogers, who asked if we have snapshot numbers. I don't believe we have those, but we don't have them yet. Is that the?
Yeah, we have some snapshot numbers. There are some that are on the. If you go to our website, dencogridiron.com, Ron, you can see. I think 14 or 15 of the school's snapshot numbers. So we have the school, their current enrollment for this cycle, or the cycle that they were enrolled for, whatever you want to call it, what they're currently in the district or classification, and what their new snapshot number is, and the projection based off of the most recent one. So there's all that information there. The biggest takeaways were Lake Dallas is most likely dropping. Argyle is staying put probably for another year, for another 2 years before they continue to grow and move up to D1. The Colony will be dropping down to 5A D2. That looks like a lock. You were talking about them growing in population. I said that had been stagnant. Apparently,
I was curious because they've kind of it's. I guess it's really just people are buying land and just building restaurants and stuff there. And so it's not homes. It's
so there are a lot of apartments, but
it's weird.
The parts that are apartments were annexed by Louisville.
Okay. All right. So that's so weird to me. Cause like you and I thought, well, maybe there'll be a 6A team at some point. And then you told me, nah, they'll just stay where they are. And then of all things, they drop.
Yeah. So they're going to be dropping. And then Denton most likely will be dropping, moving back up to 5AD1. Because there are over 2,000 kids for this snapshot. So we do have some numbers. We do not have all the numbers, and all the numbers that we have gotten have just been publicly put out there either by the school or by like Matt Stepp at DCTF. I was refreshing that page pretty regularly on Friday, but we have some, not all. We'll get the rest and those projections. And of course, if teams decide to opt up, like all the 1A schools wanting to go up to play 2A, or some small 4A schools want to stay in 5A, whatever the case might be, that changes those projected cutoffs or the cutoff numbers. So our projections are only guesses based off of historical data.
Yeah.
We'll see. So we could have a district where it's like Lake Dallas and who did I put out there? Lake Dallas.
I think it was Anna and Salina. Like it was getting kind of heavy. Yeah, it was because Aubrey is the other one that we had mentioned. They're moving up so
to 481.
There could easily be a very stacked district.
Easily. No, it could also be split. They could be a 3-5 or 3-481 or 5-481, whatever the case might be. But it's also very possible that they get lumped in together. The only caveat is maybe Anna is a 5A school because of population growth. Mm-hmm. It's very possible. It's still Lake Dallas, Aubrey, and what was the other one? Salina. Those three. That makes for a hell of a district, and I'm all the way in on. Just yes, give me that. Inject that into my veins, and let's have some fun with it.
Yeah.
All right. So before we'll wrap it up real quick, we're kind of over. We're not really over our time. We're not governed by any time clock. We can go 10 hours.
It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
F the FCC.
I don't think we're governed by that.
We're not. We're governed by not even net neutrality. Anywho, so congratulations again to Argyle Liberty, Argyle, Lone Star, Legacy, and Nelson. You clinched district titles this week, so finger snaps for you. Programming notes. We will have a different time in terms, or maybe a day in time for our week 11 preview show. Work is forcing me to not be available during our normal 1 o'clock time on Wednesday. So he and I are going to decide on what we want to do, whether it's, virtual beforehand, or if we move it to Thursday, maybe we do a virtual before the Salina, but we could do a live one before the Salina and Panther Creek game. Ooh, possibilities abound. If anybody wants to support us in terms of having that live show in Frisco,
let us know.
Info at DenkoGridiron.com. You can always hit us up at Denko Gridiron on all the social platforms. We appreciate the question, Ron. If you ever want to interact with us, you can do it during the show. You can do it after the show on our social channels, emails, whatever the case may be. Lee, parting shots, man. What do you got for us? What are you doing the rest of this rainy Saturday?
Tune in for a little college football and then probably work, I think. Really exciting. I'm gonna work while I have the TV on. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
I'm really engaged when I'll
be having some family time.
I'm very focused.
Making my own spicy chicken sandwich for dinner. Cannot wait because I've got it grinding in pickle juice right now. Oh, it's gonna be amazing.
That's terrific.
Sounds amazing. And then it's gonna be working through the night and early tomorrow and everything as well. So, all right, that does it for us.
All righty, folks. Y'all have a good one. Go watch some football and
stay safe and dry. We'll talk to you later.